So today's video is going to start off a little bit differently, and that's because of the result of the San Francisco 49ers Seattle Seahawks game from a few weeks ago. Now, some of you may know I'm a lifelong 49er fan, and good friend of the channel, Rogue Gold, happens to be a Seahawks fan. And because of that, he and I made a friendly wager on the game where the loser would need to dress in the opposing team's colors and read a statement written by the winner. Well, as you can see on screen, I lost the bet. I'm a man of my word, so here is Rogue's written statement, which I have to read, regardless of my desire to do so. All right, here we go. All right, my fellow agents, welcome back to the Gaming Brigade. Now, before we get into today's video, I wanted to take a quick moment to shout out the best NFL team in the league, the Seattle Seahawks. They pulled out an incredible win over the weekend, no huge surprise, and they're heading into the playoffs as the #1 seed. It's an exciting time to be a fan. All right, that was painful. And you can see I even changed the color scheme on my backpack for this thing. So anyway, and one thing I have to mention really quick is Rogue went very easy on me with the statement because I wrote a version for him and it was absolutely f***ing ruthless, you know? Now the good news is this, there's actually a rematch this evening. We're in the second round of the divisional playoffs. And that means we have another matchup this evening against each other. What is going to happen? Will there be another bet? I don't know. We'll see what happens, my friends. Look, we went into last week in Philly as an underdog. We won there. And actually, as I'm recording this portion of the video, I just got a message from Rogue, and it turns out we are going to have the exact same bet for tonight. So I really, really hope that, you know, in his next video, he is just singing the 49ers praises, and I'm not going to go easy. Doesn't work that way. Anyway, thank you once again for everything, my friends. With that being said, let's cut right to the video. So as most of you know by now, I never want to waste your time here at the channel, so I'm going to summarize this entire video in the first 15 seconds. Countdown has been and continues to be the best way to farm for loot in the game since its introduction almost 3 years ago. So if that's all you need to hear, feel free to click off this video right now. Thank you so much for stopping by. But for everyone else, we're going to talk about a few farming details in regard to that game mode, a few other ways you can efficiently farm for loot as well, and as always, answer some of the questions you've sent the channel. All right, my fellow agents, welcome back to the Gaming Brigade, and I know for many of you out there, including myself, we have a limited amount of time we can play this game on a weekly basis due to real-world responsibilities. And because of that, if we happen to be farming for a specific piece of gear for a build that we're working on, our goal is to farm as efficiently as we possibly can. So as we start off 2026, my friends, I want to take a few moments and highlight a few of the best ways you can farm for loot in the game so you can truly maximize your gameplay. Now, as always, we're going to jump right into the details, and if you happen to enjoy this, do me a favor and hit that like button. It truly helps the channel out. And if you want to stay up to speed on all things Division, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button as well. So as I said a moment ago, Countdown is unquestionably the best way to farm for a ton of loot in a very short amount of time. You have the ability to choose your targeted loot. So if you're trying to put together a specific build, this can help you achieve that goal incredibly fast. And the main reason I've chosen to put this video together right now is because I'm receiving messages on a daily basis from players who are new and just returning, and you're wondering, how do you farm for certain gear in the game? This is without a doubt the best way to do it. Now, as you can see on screen, when you hover over Countdown from the world map, you're going to see a prompt at the very bottom that says Show Targeted Loot. Upon pressing that, you will then have the option of choosing exactly what you want to farm for. So to be very clear, let's say if you're trying to put together a Heartbreaker build, this is going to be the best way to get a ton of that gear set as quickly as possible. Now, with all that being said, at this point, I'd like to talk about a few other very important details that you want to pay attention to before you start playing Countdown. The first of which is your build. Now, in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I'm using the following build. I am running 3 Langmo, 1 Overlord, 1 Petrov, the Coyote's Mask, and the Pestilence. You can use really your favorite build in the game. However, and this is something I mention anytime I talk about Countdown, you do not want to use a skill build because when you face the hunters, they can hack those skills, and if you happen to be using an assault drone, an assault turret, or let's say the Stinger Hive, you're going to murder everyone around you, then it's going to piss everybody off. Don't be that player. Now, the other thing you want to pay attention to is your inventory space. In my opinion, you want to roll into Countdown with at least 40 to 50 spots in your backpack. And for the record, if you happen to be farming for mods or skill attachments, that is a different category, so please pay attention to that as well. Alright my friends, now let's talk about matchmaking and finding a group, and in my opinion you want to choose challenging, and I say that because you're going to be able to find a group much faster, and the other reason is because a lot of times when you jump into heroic, people seem to bail as soon as things get sideways, and remember the entire point is to make it to the very end and face the hunters, and while the loot can be a little bit better on heroic, in my opinion the difference is nominal, which once again is why I recommend farming on challenging, because chances are you're going to be able to make it through the entire round every damn time. Now at this point, we're going to fast forward to when you actually load into the game, and this is for players who may not be familiar with this game mode. And what you're looking at on screen is the countdown map. Now anytime you play countdown, it is broken down into 2 subgroups. You're going to have one group load in on the west, one group load in on the east. Your first order of business will be to take out the 3 countermeasures that are located on the map. One group will handle one will handle the other. Then ideally you wind up meeting in the middle, then you make your way to the first encounter. Now, as far as the encounters are concerned, you want to stay away from protecting the VIP. The reason for that is because that can typically take much longer than the other ones. However, there happen to be certain times where people may wind up choosing that, and if that's the case, you do not need to worry. You will still have enough time to finish everything. You don't have to go into panic mode. Now, for those of you out there who may be new to this game mode, I do want to mention a few other things really quick. First of all, when you complete 2 encounters, there is a clear indication on screen, as you will see in a moment, when the main objective begins and the route that you need to take to get there. Now, the other thing I want to mention has to do with completing the main objective itself. Now, a lot of people out there, when they play this game mode, they're all focused on their kill count and they're not actually paying attention to what needs to be completed in order to actually make it to the end. So in my opinion, if you really want to be a hero in this game mode, focus on the objective. Do not worry about your kill count because again, you want to make it to the very end. And another friendly reminder is make sure whenever you are hacking any of these terminals, you need to make sure you stay in the radius of the computer, because if you don't, it's going to stop the progression, then you're not moving anywhere and it just sucks. So again, pay attention to certain details. That way you can learn as many mechanics as possible so you can truly help out your team. Now, once the main objective has been completed, you need to make it to extraction. That is when you're going to face the hunters. Now, the most important thing is that you want to move together as a group, because when you face the hunters at the end, things can get sideways really quick. And there's certain times I see people trying to lone wolf it, they're going left when everyone else is going right. They wind up dying. Don't be that agent, my friends. Make sure you get as much loot as you possibly can. Last but not least, when it comes to firing the flare, wait until the 10-second mark before you do so, because the enemies are going to continue to come off that helicopter, and again, that's another opportunity to get more loot. Now, as you can see on screen, we completed this run in 14 minutes and 41 seconds. All 8 agents made it out alive. We completed 2 out of 3 encounters, which is typical, and we also earned 104 countdown resources for our time, and I will talk about that in a moment. Now, when I checked my inventory after that countdown run, I started off with 105 pieces of loot. As you can see on screen, I'm sitting at 142, which means I earned 37 pieces of loot in that 14 minutes of gameplay. And for the record, that happens to be a low number because typically I pick up 40 to 50 pieces of loot every single countdown run, which once again is why I recommend going in with that extra space in your backpack. Now, as I said a moment ago, when it comes to the countdown resources, this is the currency you're going to use at the countdown vendor. Now, the first 3 named items you're looking at right now, these rotate on a weekly basis. They can include PvP exclusives, so you want to make sure you check every week. You can also see you can buy name caches, optimization caches, exotic caches as well. And having that ability is just another reason why this is still the best way to farm for loot in the game. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. On that note, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage and talk about a few other farming methods as well. As always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible continued support. Please let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and as I mention at the end of every one of these, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone. Hello once again, my fellow agents. My 49ers have a big game tonight against the Seahawks, and I'm actually going to be at a poker tournament while that is taking place. So there's a lot of moving parts right now. But anyway, the first thing you want to do when you are done farming is go through your inventory, mark things you want to keep as favorite. Everything else is going to be marked as junk. And I know I'm kind of ripping through it, but please make sure you take your time when you're doing that, because I hear from a lot of players out there, they accidentally delete something they meant to keep, and you don't want to make that mistake. Now at this point, as promised, I do want to talk about a few other ways you can farm for loot in the game, and most of you know exactly how this works, but if you don't, we'll do a quick recap, and this is really for players who want to be able to play on their own. Always remember you can farm in the open world or behind a mission, and as we take a look at the map, you're going to notice large icons and small ones. The large icons indicate the loot you're going to find in a certain area on the map on a daily basis, and the small ones indicate the loot you will find behind a mission. Now, another great option you have as a solo player is to hit up the summit. I think for most solo players, this is going to be the most efficient way to farm for exactly what you're looking for, because you do have the option, as you can see on screen, once again, to choose whatever loot you may be trying to pick up. Last but not least, my friends, we have retaliation, and you can also choose your targeted loot when that is active. If you have no idea how to play that game mode, I will leave a link to a video I posted a few weeks back going over some farming details. That's all I got for this video, my friends. Thank you once again for everything, and I will see you in the next one.